You're listening to Chillworthy,
a podcast where two best friends discuss mysteries, murders, and anything in between for your enjoyment.
So if you're ready to hear some chilling and unsettling cases, you're in the right place. Happy listening. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Chillworthy with your host, Brent and Talia.
Hi, everybody.
How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
So, have you read any books lately?
Sorry, I was drinking. I sure have. Now, not many.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you tell us about them?
So I recently read Listen for the Lie. I read it with a mutual friend of ours, and I really liked it. I was going back and forth on how to rate it at the end because I didn't love the ending. So she was accused, the main character, of killing her best friend. And, you know, I don't want to give anything away. But there were some things at the end that I struggled with that I felt like there were some sort of broad generalizations on some characters that I felt like, is this realistic? I don't know.
Okay.
But it was excellent. It was a very good book. I gave it initially a 4. No, I think I did keep it at a 4. I was going to say that I was contemplating a 3 to a 4, but I think I did actually keep it at a 4.
Mm-hmm.
Good writing kept me on the edge of my seat. I was so sucked in. I was excited to, to keep going back and reading more. I did really like it. But then I found myself in a reading rut. I didn't know what to read next. I had a few options. I started Calling Me Home, I think it's called. Kind of like, I wanted to tell you about this. So I Googled, okay, so I'm reading it and I'm just not feeling it. So I Googled because, I'm trying to turn over a new leaf on not wasting time reading things that I don't enjoy.
Good. Great.
Right. I found this, and the woman was like, if you're 50 and under, you read the first 50 pages, and if you don't like it, stop. If you're older than 50, you subtract your age from 100, and whatever that number is the page number you go up to before you decide to stop. Very fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I didn't even make it to 50 for the Calling Me Home book. Stopped it. Then I was super excited for Manhattan Beach. Tried that. I tried multiple days. Wasn't getting very far. It was fine, but just wasn't sucking me in like the other one. You know how on Libby you can do a search for what books are available now for free, or not for free, sorry. They're all for free. What has no waiting list?
Oh, yeah.
So I did that just to see what's going on, what's available out there, because what I did have, I just wasn't feeling. So I did that, and The Women came up, and this book that has consistently, I feel followed me for the last year or so. I saw it in some bookshops, and then it was coming up on some websites. It's called The Bee Sting. I forget who the author is. Paul, I want to say, is his first name, possibly Peter, possibly neither.
Yeah, okay.
But it's basically like the butterfly effect, and so the author is from Ireland, and that's where the story takes place, and it's a novel, and it goes through this family's day to day, and basically, as according to the description. Do you read the descriptions before you read a book? Yeah, you must. Yeah. I worked with somebody who never did that. They made a point of not doing it, which they always knew that they were considering psychological thrillers, but they didn't read the details of the book, which I always thought was so wild, but also good for them. I could never do it.
No, I wouldn't like that.
Yeah. But, this book describes something what if this didn't happen? And what if that didn't happen? And would this still happen within the family? And da-da-da-da-da. And when I've seen it in the bookstores, it's a really thick book. So I dabbled in that for a few pages. And then I also started The Women by Kristen Hanna. and it's about women's role in the Vietnam War, also a novel, but like historical fiction. So I think that's the one I'm probably going to really run with.
Okay.
And then I'm still reading, yeah. And I'm still reading Wild Dark Shore that I talked about last time. Oh my God, it's so sad. I'm over 70%. I'm hoping to finish by tomorrow, possibly tonight, but I doubt it. Oh my God, this book is so sad, so full of trauma. And I don't even think I definitely have not hit the trauma for all the characters. It is such a deep and heavy read. It's fantastic. It is absolutely fantastic.
Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it. The depression.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Okay, so thank you for that book stuff. For me, I also just finished a book.
Oh, shit.
Which I did tell you about, allegedly.
Oh, yeah, you did. That was literally, you finished it yesterday, right?
Yes. And I mean, okay, so again, I know I always sound like a buzzkill. Not my kind of book. It wasn't fantasy, it wasn't horror, it wasn't even big time thriller. But I did go through the whole thing, and it was sad, which I think you'd like.
Sounds nice.
Depressing, which I think you'd like.
Check. Check.
Just talked about the like messed up kind of
childhood.
No, well, yeah, but more like social work system.
Oh shit.
Things of that nature.
Sounds lovely.
The premise is basically that the character you're following was accused allegedly of killing a baby when she was like 8 or something.
Good God. An 8-year-old who killed a baby.
Allegedly. And so it just kind of follows her story and, you know, just what she's dealing with and whatever. So
this is a novel or nonfiction?
No, it's not real.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, but
how'd you find it?
I think TikTok recommended it or something, and I was just like, okay, sure, let's put it on.
Give it a whirl.
And like I said, I mean, it was not a bad book, but it's just not my genre. So, you know. But anyway, now for the moment everybody's been waiting for.
Fish facts.
Fish facts. I should get some type of intro music for that.
Ding-a-ling-ling. Right.
Okay, so we discussed the 2 residents of Atlantica that were the zebra danios as well as the flying fox algae eater.
I'm very sad I can't stare at them as you're going to be talking about
too.
Tonight. Like, I don't know where to look. I guess that one of the dogs.
I guess.
And her snories.
The 3rd resident of Atlantica there's a bunch of them.
Snails.
Bladder snails.
My favorite. Oh my God, I'm obsessed with these little sweet souls. I wish you could show pictures, like do a PowerPoint right now for our chillers.
Anybody can look them up. Bladder snails, BLADDR.
I'm so excited for these little joys. Yeah.
So they were the only resident that I did not purchase. They just came on the plants.
They're gorgeous. They have like translucent shells. They're gorgeous. Their little sweetie mouths, their little antennas. Okay, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah. They're so beautiful. That's all right.
Okay, so the 5 fun facts. Number 1, bladder snails have basically like some type of lung-like structure that let them breathe air at the surface, but they can also extract oxygen from under the water through their skin.
Did we discuss this or am I making it up? I was saying to Ashley the other day because I was like thinking to myself, well, she kind of was pushing it too, like I was going on and on about how much I love them. And she's like, you should get a tank just with them. I was like, I
yeah, we did discuss it.
Yeah. Now,
I mean, literally
be in the half-filled
I thought you were going to say they can be in the house. I was going to say they can be, yes. Literally right there. Oh my God. I mean, we know what, we can't even talk about this right now.
Why?
Because nobody cares about where you're going to put a fish tank in your house. So we'll revisit it.
No, wait a minute. Even that Big O that I love and the new Big O that you said you got that's even bigger, all plants. You did not
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
No, the one Big O that you're talking about that has the Ursula shell, that
Yes.
one came on a plant. The big one I bought.
Wow.
Okay, next.
Yeah.
They reproduce rapidly, and they are hermaphroditic.
Shit.
So they have both male and female reproductive organs.
Who knew?
And they can self-fertilize if needed, which is why they can expand so quickly in aquariums, because you got one, you can have 100. They won't be stopped.
Life finds a way. I should name my first one Malcolm for that quote. And
You would never be able to differentiate them, just so you know. This is probably my favorite fact here. They're one of the very, very few snails where their shells spiral to the left instead of the right.
Isn't that interesting?
So, unlike many other aquatic snails, bladder snails have a left coiling shell.
Why?
I don't know.
Me. Why do they call them bladder snails? Do you have that as a fact?
But I don't, but I do know why, which I'll tell you in a second.
All right.
The fourth, they help clean aquariums. They will eat some of the dirt that falls onto the bottom, some dead plants, like all that stuff.
When I've stared at them in your tanks, they are like little suction cup vacuums with their little sweet mouths just zhurp, zhurp, zhurp,
Right.
up against the glass. They are the most precious beings I've ever seen in my life. I love them. Oh my God, I love them. I was talking to Ashley about them the other night for like a half hour. I couldn't help myself. They're angels.
Yes. They're very hardy, which is why they...
I love that.
Right. It's why they lived in the tank from day one before fish were even able to live in there, because they don't give a damn.
Nothing stops them.
No, and I believe that they're called bladder snails because they have the ability to take in air in a certain bladder-like structure that lets them float to the top when they want to get more air. And then they release it, and then they will sink again. So,
have you seen them do this?
I have seen them sometimes on the top, and then they'll just like fall back down. So, kind of
just float, just
float at the top. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that's my fish facts.
Well, I'm thrilled
of the
with
day.
that topic. I'm thrilled. I love them, as I've said.
Yes.
Yeah, they're angelic.
All right.
That's it.
That is that, and now we're gonna start our case.
Oh my god! Wait, I have to tell you this. I think I did actually, but here we go again. For the chillers, they'll regret this. Not regret that. Well, they'll regret listening.
Well, let's let them be the judge.
Right. So, as you know, I love natural weather disasters. Specifically tornadoes. So the other day, looking at Netflix, and there's this show. I forget what it was called. And I thought, oh, is this like fake? Is this a documentary? I'm not sure. So I clicked it, and I was certain it was not real at first. And I Googled it. I was just not convinced. And my Googling, confirmed it's a documentary. I was like, okay. So it's about this tornado that happened in 2011 in Joplin, Missouri. Holy shit. It was an F5, which is, the highest on the Fujitsu scale, I want to say it's called. I might be calling that the wrong thing.
Fujifilm. No, I don't know. Polaroid.
I was just going to say, do you remember the film developing places and the smell? I already talked about it.
Yeah,
when
we
my
did.
mom
We
took
did.
me. Right. Oh my God. I can't believe I just forgot this. Wait, we have to go back. The episode that I covered last about Becky Marodi.
Oh, yeah.
While we were meeting, doing the next episode, possibly the one after that, my mom, as like you and I were wrapping up, or no, when I was leaving your house, my mom texted me that they found Yolanda in Mexico. And then I looked through the pictures of her arrest. She looked rough, but they freaking got her. Oh, who the hell cares that she looked rough?
I assume maybe once you get a little more information, you'll do like a
She
mini-sode.
pled not guilty. Yeah, maybe I will.
Okay.
Anyway, so back to the tornado.
Damn. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I know you want to hear this.
I thought you forgot, right?
I surely didn't. So, oh my God, this was so wild. It was a mile wide, obviously an F5, so it was massive. So first of all, did you know that tornadoes can be sick? This one was. So because it was in Missouri and, it was in the Ozarks, it traveled through the Ozarks and it traveled through the water and it picked up a bacteria from the water. So there were 2 individuals that were swept up into this tornado and lived, and they
lived to tell the tale.
And they sure did. And one participated in this documentary, got a flesh-eating bacteria.
I don't go for that. That's Chillworthy to me.
Oh, well, if you watch this documentary, you would be fainting. It was so wild. It showed, so this boy, he was a boy when it happened. And they were showing the news coverage and like the footage from his interviews. He was not expected to live, like less than 5% chance of living. He survived. He was in a coma. He still has the scar from the trach. They had to cut this out of him. His torso and body, the skin was so thin. You could see his heart beating. It was insane.
No, I don't like any
Oh my
of
God,
that.
it was insane. He survived. And, now I would suspect he must be, I want to say in his 30s. And he lifted his shirt and showed the injuries again. He's definitely healed. Like he does not look like he looked like he did, on the news
I gotcha.
footage.
Yeah.
And the skin isn't as thin, but oh my God, his body was ravaged by this. This documentary, I felt so sick by the end of it and unsettled. And I love this shit. It's late at night. I'm texting my mom, oh my God, I just watched this. And she's like, oh, I hope you don't get nightmares. And I said, I know. I just thought of that too. I probably am. And I never did. But boy, do I want to go back and watch that again. I want to watch it 3 more times.
Well, golly gee whiz. Maybe you should. Now, unfortunately, we've hit the 15-minute mark.
All right. I had to tell you about it.
Yeah. I'm just saying. So now,
fine.
We're going to rein it in.
Right.
No pun intended. Okay.
You're doing the typical.
I'm doing the topic, yes.
All right. Show me.
So, and somebody did just make a very interesting point. We were meeting with a potential another
yes.
collab, and
lovely man.
Lovely, yes. And he said, you guys seem to be pretty deep into the true crime. And I thought, we have really only been doing true crime for quite a while. Case after case after. No more paranormal. No more mystery.
No.
I got to get on. I got to switch it up again.
Yeah,
I kind of miss
your shtick.
Doing a little bit of that. Anyway,
Do it, man.
That's not today. So, this is the...
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. I'm joyful.
I guess it just went on longer than I expected.
Fine.
All right. So today's case is the disappearance of Misty Copsey.
All right.
Okay. So Misty was a 14-year-old, which of course...
Oh, my God.
It brings me back to Misty Day from American Horror Story.
Absolutely, with her radio.
She goes, "You broke Stevie."
I was thinking that her name was Dusty for some reason. Dusty. Wrong. Wrong-o.
Busty.
Oh my God.
That's a Golden Girls reference.
Hell yeah.
Okay, so anyway, Misty was a 14-year-old girl from Spanaway, Washington. She was tall, blonde-haired, and she was in junior high school. She was described as being friendly and basically your typical teenager. She lived at home with her mother, whose name was Diana, and she had just started her freshman year at Spanaway Lake junior high in the fall of 1992.
Oh, I was going to say
Close, but no cigar.
I might still say it.
Misty was...
I guess I won't.
Later. Misty was responsible and she was well behaved. She had no history of running away, just keep that in mind,
Right.
from home, and no reason to leave intentionally. So her mom and her were very close. Diana was a single young mother who worked hard to provide for Misty despite some past struggles. I guess she had some alcohol issues and DUI arrests.
Mm-hmm.
So, but during that summer, her mother and their relationship was on very good terms. And so, like, things were fine at home.
And that's up and up.
Right. And that's just to say that Misty, from all accounts, wasn't unhappy and it wasn't like a bad relationship or something.
Nothing she had to flee from.
Right. So one thing Misty was really looking forward to was I don't even know how to pronounce this, Puyallup Fair? Puyallup. Puyallup?
I think.
All right, well, Puyallup Fair. This was held every September in Puyallup, Washington.
Well, good job.
Did you go to fairs when you were little, or carnivals? The carny folk?
Lightly. Softly.
All right.
Not like... I wasn't against it, but I wasn't like dying to go to carnivals, but I did go to them. I loved the food.
Yeah.
I didn't want any of those stuffed animal crap things. I didn't want any of that.
I mean, I always wanted to play for the goldfish. Now, obviously, I know better that those things are tortured and live such a sad existence, but I wanted a goldfish bad.
I remember walking by them. I thought they were beautiful. I didn't really want one, though.
Fine.
I just wanted the food.
Yeah, all right.
I said.
Now, this is my last question before we get back into this. Were you, if you had to choose, a caramel or candy apple kind of chick?
I don't even know what you're asking.
I said, were you
I heard you.
Caramel
I heard you.
or candy? Which one did you prefer?
I don't know what you're asking. I've never had either. I don't know what.
Well, then neither, I guess. You're neither.
I suppose neither. Caramel is caramel. What's on the candy?
Gucci is Gucci.
Oh my God, that takes me back, that quote. We don't even have time to explain that one.
No.
We have no time.
We haven't the time.
No.
No, candy is dipped in something where it comes out like this really hard, almost like lollipop-esque.
Oh.
And it always reminds you of like, it's like bright red, like what the evil queen would give Snow White.
I've seen them break your tooth.
Yeah, basically.
All right. So I've never had either, but I think if I was presented with each, I would say I want the caramel.
Mm-hmm.
What was your favorite?
I liked candy.
Candy.
Yeah.
Did you ever hurt a tooth? I mean, are you biting into this?
Yeah,
thing,
you're biting into it. It's not pleasant.
You're not licking it first.
Not really.
Yeah.
Because you never get anywhere.
Right.
So.
Not like the center of the Tootsie Pop.
Right.
A 1, a 2, a 3. The kiddos are not going to know what that means. That was a good commercial. And
of course it was.
You know, I still see it sometimes. And I'm not making that up.
All right. So anyway, we're back to this. This is a big event in this town. So, you know, this is the kind of place where teenagers would go for these rides, games, food, the concerts they would have. So Misty had gone in years past, but this time was a little bit different because she finally had convinced her mom to let her go without adult supervision.
Oh my God. My mother did not let me do a damn thing without adult supervision, and good for her.
I was going to say, well, with your history, I
here.
can't blame her.
She was thinking. She was on it.
So,
were you like restricted in that way, or could you just do whatever the hell you wanted?
I restricted myself. I was not interested in doing anything without adult supervision. I wanted nothing to do with that bullshit.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
Then. Good. That all worked out.
I'm just saying.
Right. Safety first.
Yeah, I guess. So Misty's best friend, who was 14-year-old Trina Bevard, she was also going to go with her that day, which was a Thursday, to this fair, which was September 17th, 1992. So Diana had agreed to this, that, she could go without her, but there were going to be some conditions.
I have a bad feeling Diana should not have given the freedom that she gave, but maybe I'm wrong. And not that this is Diana's fault, may I say, if that is what happened.
You may say it.
I will say it.
Okay, it has been said.
Diana's fault.
Misty was supposed to take a public bus home that evening. Since she worked as a caregiver for an elderly woman, and it would run overnight. So,
like her job would run overnight. I'm just asking.
Yes. Didn't have an issue with you asking. Excuse me for breathing. Of all things, that's a normal question, and I'm happy with it.
I thought you were taking a huff before you answered. You were upset with me.
No, not right now.
Okay.
Here is, though, something that's not great. I will say this. I still agree it's not Diana's fault. Nobody could have predicted this, but Trina's parents weren't so hip on the idea of them going without adult supervision. So Diane decided to tell Trina's parents she was going to take them.
Oh, no.
Even though she didn't take them.
No.
Or be with them, is what I'm saying.
Trying to be the kid's friend.
Yes, the cool mom.
Uh-huh.
So.
That's no good. No way to go. No good comes from that.
Yeah. So anyway.
Did you have any, did you know any parents like that when you were growing up? I didn't.
No, I don't know.
Yeah, same.
Not really.
Yeah. I feel like I would have been very disturbed by that.
So, like I said, to basically satisfy Trina's parents, Diane did a little white lie and said that she was going to be there, and she was going to, at the very least, she'd also be picking the girls up at the end.
And that wasn't happening either.
No, because they were supposed to take the bus home.
Right. The bus, which I don't know about that safety. She's a son of a gun. That was bold. I don't even know. Like, to do that with your own kid and have that plan in place and, like, you feel comfortable with that, great. But
It's not good. Yeah, it's not, especially because it's like, I mean, you know, somebody else's child, and you're sort of assuring them that you're going to take care of them. Like,
exactly.
That's
and that's
definitely
coming
not good.
From the adult. That's not even like Misty saying, oh, my mom's going to do this. She's going to be there. Don't worry about anything. Like, the adult is telling the other adult this.
You've nailed that down pretty tight. We all have it.
That's a bunch of bullshit.
Just for the listeners, this was an adult saying it. So
if she said it, nobody's gonna know what that means.
So anyway, right, Misty she's ecstatic at this turn of events, right?
Bet.
So she even borrowed a pair of her mother's new jeans for the occasion.
Oh my God.
And they were the trendy light blue stone-washed jeans.
Oh, stone-washed.
That were just a little bit too big. So Misty got to roll them up at the cuffs.
That was in your research? This makes me so sad. Do you remember being 14? I mean...
No, I don't.
Well, I sure as hell do. And you are a child. You are not even a teenager at 14. Let me assure you.
I'm assuming at 14 I was in my basement watching the Golden Girls and Xena back to back. Anyway.
Sounds nice.
Yeah, it was.
Right.
She had on a navy blue sweatshirt and brown suede shoes. So Misty heads out the door that afternoon. Obviously, nobody knew that she was never coming back.
Oh, my God.
Diana, Misty's mom, drops Misty and Trina off. And I'm just calling it the fair from this point on.
I think that's best.
Yeah. At the fair around 3:00 on September 17th. So the girls wandered around. It's a big fair, so lots of sights and sounds and smells of food.
Right. Sounds
carnival
nice.
Games, stuff like that.
Right.
So that night the fair was especially busy because a Huey Lewis and the News concert was playing, drawing in thousands of visitors and clogging traffic in the small city.
I just had a thought.
Congratulations.
One thing that I liked
Yeah.
about fairs that I forgot to say, the freaking rides, man. I freaking loved the rides as a kid. I can't believe that I forgot that.
I liked the one ride where it was like centrifugal force was keeping you in, where you stood against the wall.
And it was like a big ring. You just stood there.
Yeah.
Hope for the best.
That
and
was
somehow
fun.
we all made it.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was wild.
Wild times.
I liked Tilt-A-Whirl. I also liked...
The Scrambler was my favorite.
That scared me a little, but I went on it. Do you remember that big ship?
Oh, God, yes.
I freaking loved that ship.
No, I loved that ship, too. So anyway, there's a lot more people, even than on a normal night, is what I'm trying to say.
Thousands.
And I literally mean trying to say.
Fine.
Right. So they are enjoying their evening. Time ended up flying by faster than they realized, which would happen at a fair.
Of course.
As a child, of course.
Right.
So the girls' plan was to catch the 8:40 p.m. Pierce Transit bus. That was going to go from downtown Puyallup back to Spanaway. This was going to be the last bus of the night heading to where they needed to go. So sometime after 8 p.m., Misty and Trina make their way towards the bus stop. But they were too late because by 8:40, they watched the last Spanaway-bound bus pull away without them.
You know what I'm wondering? The fact
Not really. But I never have to wonder too long. What are you wondering?
The fact that you are calling this the case of Misty's disappearance, I'm wondering, Trina does not also
Very astute.
go missing?
Very, very astute. So now suddenly, as this bus leaves, we've got 2 ninth graders stranded in downtown Puyallup as night starts to fall. And again, we're in the 90s, the early 90s, so nobody's popping out a cell phone to get an Uber.
Right, good call. Or to call their mother.
Well, yes, I thought that was obvious, but yes. Anyway, so initially, Misty's not too worried. She had a backup plan. Earlier in the day, the girls had tentatively made arrangements for an older friend.
Oh, God.
An 18-year-old Reuben Schmidt.
Oh, I see. A senior, possibly older, is going to go pick up these junior high kiddos.
To give them a ride home if they needed it.
Oh, good.
So Reuben was an acquaintance, but he had quite the crush on Misty.
The 14-year-old.
Yes. So relying on him to pick them up was definitely not part of Diana's plan. She said, take the bus home.
Right, which they missed.
Misty's mother did not trust this boy at all. And I don't know if I have this further down, so if I start talking about it later, tell me. But one of the reasons, or the reason why that's not supposed... I'm sorry, I got distracted because from a few episodes ago when Talia made that really long yawn and took her glasses off and, I don't know, gargled mouthwash while I was telling this story, and then she's like, and they didn't come back in. Actually, that episode hasn't even aired yet. It's this week's. But she just really threw me off because she's doing it again. But anyway.
I just silently yawned.
You did, and your eyes were open this time, so that's better than nothing. The chillers will know about what I mean next week. Fine. The reason that the mother was not a fan of this boy was because she had picked up the phone one day when the two of them were talking on the phone, Misty and Ruben, and she heard Ruben being very
provocative,
forward,
inappropriate,
yes, about things
with her 14-year-old.
You got it. Yes.
Bye-bye, Ruben.
So that's why she,
the Rubester,
wasn't a fan of any of this idea.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
oh my God.
So Misty and Trina were now considering calling. I got Southwestern there. Colin. Misty and Trina were now considering calling Ruben for help.
Oh.
So they actually did. He had been contacted sometime that evening. So Misty ended up calling him and asked if he could come pick them up. He says that he could not come and pick them up. He didn't have enough gas in his car.
Strange.
And so by the time this conversation ends, the girls don't have any way of getting home. So they're just looking for another solution. So now around 8:45, Misty finds a payphone and calls her mom at work. I'm assuming she was a little anxious about doing this.
You know,
as probably you would have been.
Oh my God. I would have been sweating big time. Now, the thing is, though, this phone call to her mother, I feel like, does clear Ruben, because she would have called her mother, I assume, to say, like, we're stranded, we have no way home, we missed the bus. I assume she left out the Ruben detail.
Right. I'm thinking she probably did, because she knew that her mom really disliked him.
Right, but I'm thinking if he's saying, like, yeah, they did call me and I couldn't do it, why else would she have called her mother then? Like, I feel like it makes sense. Like, that does, you would think, clear him, though, of this, potentially.
So Misty admits to her mom that they did miss the bus, and Diana is upset, but trying to stay calm.
Right.
So obviously they're asking this obvious question. Now what the hell do we do? She could not leave her job because the patient she was looking after that night was 97.
Oh.
So she told Misty she was going to have to find another ride. Maybe call somebody that they both knew and trusted. So she said, why don't you find somebody else and call me back when you know who it is so that I'm cool with it and you're cool with it. But more so she's cool with it.
Right. But put the responsibility on Misty to figure this out.
I guess. So Misty then immediately brings up Ruben. And I guess she might have said, like, well, this is something we were trying and whatever, and Diana shuts that down immediately. No, not him. So Misty promises that she'd figure something out and she would call Diana back once she did. That was the last time Diana ever spoke to Misty. I literally just got the chills.
Chillworthy.
Yes. So after hanging up, Misty and Trina realize that they had to part ways because Trina's home was in a place called Sumner, and that was actually closer. This is the part that's so crazy to me. It was actually within walking distance of the fair. Losing my voice all of a sudden. It was in walking distance of the fair. It was only a few miles away. So one's thinking, but see, well, actually, no, I guess that does make sense because Trina's parents think that Diane is with them and going to pick them up and take them home or whatever. So if you know, Trina just shows up on the doorstep saying, hey-oh, that's not going to be good for anybody.
Right.
So, but anyway.
But I'm going back to the girls separating. I'm thinking back to being that age. Anywhere from that age up, there is no way in hell I would have left any of my friends and separated.
We all know your thoughts on that, yeah.
Well, and I would also like to speak for all of my friends at that time, and I can't imagine any of them would be like, all right, see ya, good luck to you. Like, they wouldn't be leaving me either.
These aren't you and your friends.
Thank you.
I'm just saying.
I recognize that, but I don't understand how that seemed like, especially that Misty told her mom what was going on. Granted, Trina, her parents were still in the dark, but this was such a bad idea.
Yeah.
Separate.
When you're right, you're right.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So Trina had a strict 9:45 curfew.
Bizarre time. Arbitrary.
Yeah, weird.
Right.
So she's basically like, I can't wait around any longer. So, I gots to go.
But you would think then, I don't know how they would have explained this, but that Misty would have gone home with her.
That's what I was thinking too. But again, it's I think the point of that
Where's your
is
mom?
right, because it's like, I guess Trina could have been like, oh yeah, they dropped me off, like she's gone now. But not if
Shami.
right,
Where?
exactly. Not if Misty is also there. Like, oh yeah, your mom dropped her own daughter off too? Like, that's,
Well, I feel like, but even that, you would think kids would be thinking like 6 steps ahead and thinking like, oh yeah, my mom did
You
that.
would think kids would be thinking 6 steps ahead.
I'm thinking Misty could have been like, oh, I wanted to sleep over and I asked my mom.
And we didn't bother to ask you. And my mom left, though, before we actually got like the approval to do so and all that stuff. And my Aunt Talia, I mean, she always says, I think like way ahead,
Oh my God. Yeah.
So anyway, they are now basically they're splitting up.
Yeah.
Her house, like I said, was Trina's house was a few miles away. Misty's house was at least 8 miles away, up on South Hill in Spanway, which was definitely too long of a walk to attempt at night, and for me, just in general. So now, according to Trina's later statements, they initially thought that Misty would find a ride.
With who?
Whoever, I don't know. So Trina claims that the last time she saw Misty, she was heading towards the bus area as Trina was walking towards her house. So at that time, Trina told investigators that she simply walked the whole way home alone. And now Misty is now by herself, and she's left to figure out how the hell she's getting home. So I guess Misty considered trying to catch a different bus route, but the only other option that she could come up with was that she was going to walk home also. And maybe she could like hitchhike or get a ride or something, which brings me all the way back to one of our early episodes of that kid in Alaska who was just bebopping around the state.
That's a horrific story.
Of course.
He was a little pioneer, but that was horrific.
Pioneer, yes. So we don't exactly know what Misty did in those moments after 8:45, but there was a bus driver who later came forward to report a sighting of Misty that night. And he said that around 9:20 p.m., he saw a tall teenage girl fitting Misty's description, and she approached his bus in the downtown area and asked when the last bus to Spanaway was leaving. And he told her that unfortunately his was the last bus and it had already left, like it had already done its final run and they were done for the night. So he did mention to her, from what he says, that she could catch a different bus to Tacoma and transfer. But I guess he said before he could give her any details on this, she just kind of seemed like distressed and like probably starting to get panicky, and she just walks away like out of his sight, and he doesn't see her again. So in this brief encounter though with the bus driver, this was the last confirmed sighting of Misty.
At 9:20, you said.
Yes. Now there was there was one other unconfirmed sighting later in the night. Some motorist said that they thought they saw a young girl walking along Meridian Street near one of the on-ramps to Highway 512 around 10 p.m. that was headed westbound, which I guess this would make sense because if Misty had started walking, it would have been around that time and it would have been in that direction. So now Diana finishes her overnight shift.
Well, and real quick, let's not forget that, like you said earlier, with the time
Span?
No, like era, I guess.
Oh.
Like
period.
Right. Misty cannot communicate with Diana anytime she wants to. She has to be near a phone. Like, she can't just whip her cell phone out and call her mom. So that's another like barrier in all of this.
All right, that's why I mentioned it. Yeah. So Diana finishes her overnight shift in the early hours of September 18th, and she discovers that Misty had not returned home. And now she's starting to panic.
Of course.
And I bet she is starting to sweat.
I'd be doing more than sweating if my kid didn't come home. And it's freaking past midnight. And the way the circumstances were when they last spoke, none of this is good.
You're right.
Oh, my God.
So by that morning, Diana was calling anybody and everybody she could think of, friends, neighbors, Trina's family.
Uh-oh.
I wonder how that went. Hoping to hear that Misty had turned up somewhere. So she quickly confirmed, though, that Trina was at home, safe and sound.
Great. No shit, because they separated.
And
how much was Trina giving up, though? Is she describing all of this and saying that?
Probably not at the moment. But Trina actually was the one that phoned Diana to ask if Misty got back all right because she had not heard.
That was brave.
Yes. Well, but that mom on that
Diana
side was in on it.
But still, like, I just feel, I don't know.
Misty wasn't with any relatives or anything like that. So as the day wears on, no word, Diana's fear only intensifies, and finally she contacts, which I'm thinking finally, I mean that would have been like
how many
my
hours?
Fourth call or something, but whatever. Finally she contacts the authorities to report Misty missing. So I'd love to say this is like a crazy thing, but we always seem to, there's always something that makes you go like, really? So to Diana's surprise, the initial response from law enforcement was rather dismissive.
You're kidding.
So
Misty wanted to start anew at 14 years old. Let her go.
Right.
She wanted to go missing.
So the Pierce County Sheriff's Office told her, get a load of this, hold on to your nips, told her she would have to wait 30 days to report Misty missing.
Her 14-year-old.
Now, obviously, whoever that was wrong. Maybe they were new. Maybe they were an intern. But this is the information that this poor mother got. Like, I mean, obviously the situation's not funny, but that is absolutely absurd.
Ludicrous. Oh, my God.
So, yeah, so they said, nope, you got to wait 30 days before you can
Please tell
say...
me Diana was like, okay.
before you can say that Misty is an actual missing person. So, anyway, so all right, so now we've got a 14-year-old girl who's gone all night. Surely it's like, yeah, this is an emergency, but in 1992, it was sadly a very common occurrence that police would assume a teenager had simply run off, especially when there wasn't immediate evidence of any kind of foul play. I'm thinking about those other girls from the mall. Maybe she went to join up with them.
That freaking
Houston.
Mall story. Christmas time.
Horrible.
That was a horrible case. They all are. They're all horrible.
You got that right, sister. So Misty was a minor, but she had barely been missing for 24 hours. So in some of the eyes of the officers, it looked like a possible runaway case and not an abduction.
Yeah.
So let's just chill out.
Right. Everyone remain calm. Nothing
So,
to see here.
Diana was adamant, though, that Misty would never run away, especially without telling her, which doesn't make sense even to say that.
She
but
was
like, yeah.
frantic and panicked.
Right.
But I agree, based off what we're hearing about Misty.
So she's saying something bad had to have happened. And, you know, she's thinking like every hour that goes by is worse.
Especially like look at these circumstances, like not only based off how Misty sounds, it doesn't sound likely, but like she didn't have a way home. She was scrambling. She called her mother. There were so many things leading up to this that it's like it was already on its way and a developing situation. Clearly, she must have come into contact with somebody. Not good.
Clearly, absolutely. So she pressed, the police a little harder to be like, hello. But they just kept giving her like challenges. So Misty lived in unincorporated Spanaway, which I'm not sure what that exactly means, but it's basically that was Pierce County's jurisdiction. But she actually disappeared from downtown Puyallup. And they had their own city police. So it wasn't immediately clear which agency should take charge. And if you remember, Didn't we talk about this once? Where was it
like
your
a pissing
case?
Match.
Something like that, pissing in the wind and such. Where it was like they came up with a new law that was like, hey, everybody, we're gonna,
yes, this
like,
is how we're gonna like differentiate. It was the families. It was the parents who like never gave up, which is probably literally
a
all
lot
of them.
Yeah. I think this law came into play after this, but I'm just saying, like, this is the kind of shit that's why those laws are important.
Yes.
Like, you're not going to delay looking for people because you're not sure whose job it is to do it.
Exactly.
So, anyway.
Correct.
So, the Puyallup police, I think I'm pronouncing that different every single time.
Whatever. We all know what
Puyallup.
you mean.
Did take a report, but they still lean toward the idea that Misty would just turn up on her own.
Of course. She's hiding in a field somewhere. Like, give me a break.
And the sheriff's office in Pierce County, they just flat out refused to investigate beyond saying, hey, she's a runaway. She's a runaway, man.
And even, oh my God, I can't. Even if that was true, she's a minor.
Yeah,
she's
I
under
know.
18.
I know.
Like, she is not safe as a runaway.
Right. So,
and if you think if you think she's a runaway, could we investigate why she might be a runaway? What the hell's going on? She wasn't, but you know what I'm saying?
I do.
Oh my God, it drives me bonkers.
So, feeling very alone in this search, Diana takes matters into her own hands. And she decides, because of what happened on that phone call, she decides she's going to contact Reuben Schmidt.
Ooh, yikes.
And ask him if he knew anything about Misty's whereabouts. So Reuben told Diana the same story that he would later tell the police, which is Misty called him from the fair asking for a ride. He didn't have gas. He never went to go get her. And he claimed that was the end of it. However, Diana learned something that made her question Reuben's story a little bit. His roommate mentioned that Reuben had left their place shortly after he got that phone call from Misty.
But he had
on the
no
night of the
gas.
17th, yes.
That son of a bitch.
And here we go again, another very upstanding roommate, friend, person who's
throwing him right under a bus, not protecting him.
Right. But
for the good of children.
For the good of all, right. So if Reuben hadn't gone to pick her up, like, where did he go? Why did he leave? That's a pretty big inconsistency that's now been planted.
For sure.
Like, yeah. Yeah. You betcha, sure.
Because if you're leaving like that, even if it wasn't for Misty, tell the freaking police that you did that. And where the hell did you go?
Well, the police didn't question him yet. I'm saying this is what they will eventually, but I'm saying this is what he was saying to the mom, and then she found out later.
Oh, yes.
That
right.
That the roommate went to the police to say, "Hey,
wait a minute.
Hey-o." So anyway, so there's some questions around him.
Yeah.
Diana also gets in touch with the bus driver, and I mean, God love this woman because she's doing what the police aren't doing.
Oh, she is busting her ass for her child.
So she gets in touch with that bus driver who had been on duty that first night, and the driver recounted to her and later again to police basically what happened and that brief interaction that he had with her. And he said, I remember suggesting an alternate route to her, but then she kind of walked away pretty fast, seeming pretty stressed out, just kind of like shutting down or whatever. So like I said, that little interaction, as far as anybody knew, was the last time that Misty was definitely seen by an adult witness before she disappeared. All right, so by the end of that first day, September 18th, Diana knew that her daughter was in some sort of trouble. But, like I said, she couldn't really get law enforcement to treat it with any kind of urgency, which is just bonkers to me. But she did keep trying, to her credit, which of course, I mean, obviously, but she reportedly filed multiple missing persons reports within that first week, basically begging for anybody to take action. And the case was eventually assigned to Police Sergeant Herm Carver. Hermes boy. But he...
Oh my God. I was holding ice water in my mouth and I couldn't make the joke myself. Good work, man.
He still believed Misty was likely a runaway who would come back in her own time. In those early weeks, a couple of leads only reinforced this runaway theory. Two of Misty's schoolmates, and it's important to make that distinction, they weren't actually her friends, just schoolmates, came forward with claims that one of the girls, another Misty
Strange.
Matthews, she received a phone call on September 19th from somebody, not Misty. So Misty, the girl not missing, received a phone call from someone else saying Misty was okay, but the girl who called was not Misty, if you're following me.
I am,
okay.
right.
Another classmate reported possibly seeing Misty around town, just around town, on September 21st. These stories were sketchy at best. So even the other Misty who received that call, she wasn't positive what that call was all about.
Which, why are you saying this?
Who the hell knows?
Right. Like, why are you wasting anybody's
But you
time?
remember those mall girls and that chick who started calling that family saying, hey, we're coming home on the 4th.
Wasn't that the
Something like that, I guess. Hey, we're coming home on the bus tonight and that kind of stuff. Horrible.
And who thinks this stuff up? Like, are you sitting in bed at night thinking, how can I torture this family who's already going through a terrible time?
Yeah.
Let me really play with their heads. I mean, it is sick. Sick tickets.
So they decided that Misty must have run off voluntarily and was hiding out with some friends. So pretty shockingly, based on these unverified reports, the police closed the missing persons case just weeks after it was opened.
Weeks.
And they even told local media that Misty had been found safe when in fact she hadn't.
Where did that come from?
I don't know.
I feel so bad for her mother. What a nightmare. Already it's a nightmare, just like basic true facts. Her daughter is missing. But all of this extra layered stuff that didn't do anybody any effing favors.
No. So while police essentially had put the case on pause for about a month, which meant like there was no active investigation happening, Diana was out there handing out flyers, and also hanging them up and chasing down every rumor or, hearsay, like whatever. So in the back of her mind, she also had to contend with this uncomfortable spotlight on herself. Because kind of like what you said earlier, like, well, okay, so if she quote unquote ran away, why did she?
Right, like what would cause a child to do that? What are the circumstances going on?
Listen, we're not laughing at this at all. It's Talia's fighting for her life over there because we're recording really late and she can't stop yawning.
I just want to go to bed.
So she's got this very uncomfortable spotlight on her. And because of Diana's past run-in with the law over welfare benefits and the fact that so I didn't tell you this. But
all right.
Because I didn't know, whatever. Okay.
Welfare fraud.
No. So because I told you how she had a problem with alcohol.
Right. DUIs.
Right. She mistakenly reported Misty missing once when she wasn't missing. So as you can see, that's not great. So I'm just saying, like, obviously her history isn't fantastic with this kind of thing.
Right. Which, if there were like 4 to 5 instances of this happening, then I can see why they would be cautious. But I do believe they should have still investigated it. For there to have been only...
I'm sorry?
There to have been only one other episode of this, and no, it doesn't paint Diana in a great light at all.
I mean, and Misty could have just been playing a prank that time, like hiding in a room. I don't know what the circumstances is. All I'm saying is she called and said that she was missing, and she was not missing. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. But
they should have considered it and handled it with like the same amount of like dedication and seriousness if it was anybody else who called in their missing child.
So, Yeah, obviously there were some people who were wondering if the mother had something to do with this disappearance. And Diana was never found to be involved in any way. It did kind of add insult to injury. Because if you think about it, I mean, she's the one person feverishly trying to find her daughter. And then she's kind of like being side-eyed by these other people. Like, you know.
For sure.
Like she's iffy.
Right.
When they should have been the ones helping her. Or taking the lead, dare I say. Not even helping.
And she's doing every single thing.
Right. So, finally, after weeks of dead ends, the authorities began to come around a little bit because people were putting pressure on them. Like, are you going to do anything? So, by late November of 1992, the police department reclassified Misty's case from a mere runaway to a missing person under suspicious circumstances. So in other words, they basically finally acknowledged that Misty might have been the victim of foul play, and this was a huge step in the case because it meant that they were finally taking it seriously and they could actually allocate resources to investigate what happened the night of the fair. So Detective Jim Doan, he was a King County homicide investigator who had taken an interest due to some similar cases in the area. He said later on that given the facts, which is basically a young girl disappearing at night with no other contact, he said, quote unquote, there is a high probability she is the victim of foul play. Misty's mom had known that this was most likely the case from day one. So, they're a little behind the eight ball. So now 1992 turns into
1993.
Got it.
Thank you for letting me do that.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
So 1993 comes around. Misty's fate is still a mystery, but her mother refuses to let this case just slip away. So
it's consuming her, as it should be.
Right, yeah. She found a kind of unlikely ally in a local citizen. So he was not a detective. He was not a police officer. He was just a guy named Corey Bober. And he was in his 30s. He was a resident of the town that I can't pronounce.
Right.
And he had a reputation for being a little bit eccentric. So you have that in common.
Sounds very nice.
Absolutely.
Nice chep.
Some would say a little obsessive about solving crimes or trying to solve them. So a local Nancy Drew.
Right. I loved those books as a kid. And I remember in the 90s, they came out with a show. Wasn't the greatest. And I recognized that as a child, but I freaking loved it. Did you like Harriet the Spy as a kid? I feel like we talked about this, and that's what I thought you said when we talked about it. I loved it. That movie with Rosie O'Donnell.
I know what you're talking about. But, and did you know she died now?
My God, I thought you meant Rosie O'Donnell. The girl, yes.
Yeah.
I saw that a couple weeks ago on that news thing that I've talked to you about that comes up.
Oh, yeah. That's crazy. Michelle Trachtenberg. That's obviously tragic on its own, but what's also crazy is that they had just announced that Buffy is coming back.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Like they are doing like not a reboot, but a continuation, like with the same people is what I'm saying.
Not her.
Well, right. So
that's a shame.
Like Sarah Michelle Gellar, like they like signed on and stuff, and now she is not alive. Like it's just crazy. I don't know. But anyway, so yes,
Very
I just
sad.
remembered when you brought her up. But so anyway, this guy, Corey, he likes to try to solve cases. So he kind of made himself kind of a pain in the ass to law enforcement because he had a fixation on the Green River Killer case. And the Green River Killer was a serial murderer targeting women in Washington in the 1980s. Corey had convinced himself that a man named Dan, who went by Randy, I can't even begin to pronounce his last name, Archzeiger? Archzeiger is what I'm guessing, was the Green River Killer. And he was just like bombarding police with these theories over and over. And I guess he was wrong. P.S.
Oh, it wasn't the guy that he thought.
Because Gary Ridgway was identified as the Green River Killer in 2001. But Corey never let go of his suspicion about the other man.
Just thought he was
Take
somebody
that as
else.
you will. Yeah. But anyway.
Like another murderer, I should say.
Right. So when Misty disappeared, Bober's attention was drawn to this. And he'd been cataloging local murders and missing people and like looking for patterns, and he noticed something very interesting, which is this town had seen unsolved murders of 2 other teenage girls in recent years. And those cases had very similar things to Misty's situation. So there was Kimberly DeLange and Anna Chebetnoy. I don't know what is going on with the
names in this region.
Yeah. But Kimberly was 15, Anna was 14, and they vanished in remote spots along Highway 410, which I guess she was supposed to have disappeared along the highway herself. And the timing of those cases were exactly 2 years and 1 month apart. So he was noticing that this pattern was still holding because Misty went missing on September 17th. And to this guy, it wasn't a coincidence, but rather a clear sign of a serial killer at work, possibly the same one from 88 and then 90 and then 92 is what he's saying.
I mean,
so
it could totally be a pattern.
I suppose.
I wonder what this guy Corey did for his job. Like, that's a lot of time to devote to all of this.
So Bober says he tried to warn the police before Misty vanished. And he said that he called a detective in early September of 1992 to predict that another girl was going to disappear near the fair and end up along Highway 412.
Quite specific.
Yeah, I'll say. Whether that warning ever actually reached the right person is doubtful. Some officers denied that he even made that call to begin with. And I mean, that sounds pretty impressive if he predicted this happening.
Oh, exactly.
You know, like
the specifics.
Yeah, and I mean, again, like just going back to this, imagine being Misty's mom. I mean, your daughter's missing. Police haven't done a hell of a lot. Now this oddball man is saying, hey, I'm pretty sure she was murdered by a serial killer and left in the wilderness. So
that poor woman.
I know. Crazy. So, and he did explain to Diana how Misty's disappearance lined up with Kimberly and Anna's, and he suggested that they search Highway 410 because that's where the previous victims had been found. So, desperate, again, for any lead, Diana agreed to let Bober help. Police, for their part, did caution Diana not to get too entangled with this man. They felt that Bober was unstable and possibly just kind of looking for attention and to chase out his own agenda and fantasy of this.
Stirring things up.
Right. So, but at the moment, Bober was one of the few people who was even basically caring about the fact that this girl was missing. So the first volunteer search was led by him, Corey Bober. It took place on November 28th, 1992. Oh, okay. So now we're back in 1992 for a second. So Diana and about 25 people went through the area where Bober was thinking was Highway 410. So, but unfortunately, I guess they were actually at Highway 401. And he just messed up, I guess.
Oh, my God.
So, we all make mistakes.
Yes, you're correct.
So not surprisingly, they didn't find anything at Highway 401. Then Bober did realize he made a mistake. So he refocused his efforts. And in the meantime, the police had finally acknowledged that Misty, so ridiculous, was probably in danger.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd imagine.
Right. So now we are in February of 1993. Now, this is when the second party, still led by this man, goes out around now Highway 410. And I guess they were searching not far from the Mud Mountain Dam. Sounds cozy to me.
Sounds very nice.
Lots of beavers. So about a dozen searchers spread out through this dense brush and muddy ditches. It had been a very wet winter, so everything was very like soggy, soppy. Not long into the search, they spotted something, if you can believe it. A bit of blue fabric poking out of the ditch. And a volunteer used a search hook to snag it, and as he pulled it out, more fabric came up, and it basically was a small bundle of clothes. And a blue sock tumbled out, and in an instant, Diana said she recognized what they had found. So there, covered in mud, were Misty's jeans, which actually were Diana's jeans.
Yeah, good call.
Those distinctive stone-washed jeans with the rolled cuffs that she had worn to the fair that night. Misty's underwear was also there, and one blue sock. And first off, can we just keep in mind that this eccentric man was the one that told them to look there, P.S.
I know.
So the jeans had been oddly rolled up together, with the underwear and sock tucked into them, almost as if someone tried to hide them. Something that was not there was Misty's sweatshirt, her shoes, and her other sock. So those were nowhere to be seen. One of Misty's shoes may have been found later, but from what I was reading, it's unclear if it was confirmed that it was or not. So, but when Misty's mother saw her daughter's clothing pulled out of that ditch, it was basically she was completely distraught.
Yeah.
There's a quote here that says, "She cracked in 30 million pieces." And that was from Bober.
Upon seeing that.
Yes. So now, obviously, they're like, well, of course, she's been a victim of foul play.
Exactly.
Right. So detectives rushed. You don't hear that often. Detectives rushed to secure the scene. The location is about 20 miles from where she disappeared, and it was remote and wooded. And this is the kind of place you'd only search if you suspected a pattern.
20 miles, and if she was on foot that night trying to figure out a ride, it's like, did she, I assume not, walk
20 miles? I would assume not.
Right. So then obviously somebody must have picked her up.
That is the other assumption. And look.
Sick.
Right. And credit where it's due. This man, Bober.
Oh, he's on it.
I mean, his persistence.
Saved the day. Possibly.
Well.
Didn't save her, but at least hopefully gave her mother.
Right, because, those clothes could have stayed out there forever.
Exactly.
So now the police are fully engaged.
Oh, how nice.
Right.
Bober did all the work. Now they come on the scene.
So they bring in some search dogs and some helicopters. They use thermal imaging things to canvass the surrounding forest for any signs of Misty's remains. But I don't understand, if she would obviously have been passed away, what thermal imaging are they going to find?
Very good point. Well, maybe they were thinking she was still alive.
But it specifically says here they were searching for her remains. So they scoured the area, and a few days later they actually did find some bones, but it turns out they were from an animal and not a human. So forensic examination of Misty's recovered clothing yielded some information, but it was pretty limited. The jeans and the undergarments had no visible blood or semen on them, which could mean a few things. Either there was no violence that happened at that time when the clothes were removed, or environmental exposure had washed away evidence. Now, something that was interesting, though, was investigators did find paint chips on the jeans. They were like 3 tiny chips of automotive-style paint that potentially could link to a vehicle or location. But frustratingly, these paint chips were lost before they could be analyzed or matched to anything.
How fascinating.
Yeah. 2 weeks after the jeans were found, now we're at February 1993, searchers discovered...
I can't stop yawning. I can't. It's not you. I'm very sucked into the case. I swear I am.
Searchers discovered more of Misty's personal items in the same general vicinity. So they found a plastic hair pick.
Oh, gosh. Back in the day.
Those are those like long ones that would go in and up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a toothbrush that Diana said was Misty's. I mean, that must be a specific toothbrush, but hey, whatever.
Well, and why would she have had that with her that night?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you remember those toothbrushes that used to play music when you would...
Never.
Yeah.
Like The Little Mermaid?
Yeah, like you could listen to it through your teeth.
You're making
No, I'm
that up.
serious. And it was like on a timer, so kids would know how long to brush those little chompers for. I don't think they still have them, but who the hell knows?
I have no memory of that. Which did you have?
I didn't have one.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
Did you want one?
Maybe.
Yeah.
If it played like Hannah Montana's The Best of Both Worlds.
I never watched.
What a bop.
What a bop.
So anyway, the toothbrush and the comb, they were about a half a mile away from where the jeans had been tossed off the road. So I guess Misty's mom said that Misty used to carry those in a small black purse, along with an electronic organizer with all of her friends' phone numbers. But the purse itself was not recovered, suggesting that whoever took Misty might have dumped its contents while moving along the highway. Like...
That's why they're finding
a little bit here, a little bit there. Right. So now the detectives, Jim Doyon, he was from King County. He had been the one tracking Kimberly and Anna's murders. He was the one who suspected that there was a link. Except no, because the other guy did.
Right.
But
false.
There was another detective who joined in, and they actually worked directly with Corey Bober for a short time, chasing down Bober's many theories and clues around the woods. So for Diana, of course, this is like a double-edged sword because you're finding these clothes crushed any kind of remaining hope that her daughter was just out there and okay. Mm-hmm. But now at least the police were actually doing something. So it's like,
At least it got some pep in their step.
Yeah. And of course, by this point, obviously the police were like, we're pretty sure she's deceased.
Yeah.
One of the detectives told the press in 1996 that, quote unquote, given the circumstances, the timing and location of her disappearance, there's a high probability she is the victim of foul play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Day
so,
one.
In other words, Misty had been murdered, was basically the operating theory happening here. Misty's belongings retrieved at such a remote site, the big question became who the hell put them there?
Right.
Were they the same person responsible for Kimberly and Anna? The investigators at this point had a lot of catching up to do. Yeah. Crucial months had been lost early on. Yeah. And the potential evidence or witnesses, their memories had faded by that point. Yeah. But nonetheless, the case started to take shape around a few people of interest. So who do you think first is on the list?
Reuben.
Yes. Schmitty.
Schmitty's boy.
So if we remember, he was the 18-year-old friend.
Right. Who lied about his whereabouts.
Right. So Reuben was the last known person Misty reached out to for help that night, aside from her mother. Naturally, he was scrutinized pretty closely. When police finally interviewed him 5 months later, and yes, it did take 5 months to get a formal interview of him, Reuben stuck to his story. He said Misty called. He said, I got no gas. He did not go to see her that night. However, under deeper questioning, Reuben added some bizarre new details. So, Trina, the girl at the carnival,
right,
she revealed that Misty had actually called Reuben not once, but 2 times that evening. Once to ask for a ride, and the second time to implore him, because she was like, I guess she knew she needed to get home. So she was basically trying to convince him to go to her house first, go into her house. She was telling him where to find money so that he could then buy gas to come and pick her up. And Reuben did admit this was true, that Misty basically begged him to, but he claims that he still refused, saying that he didn't even have enough gas to get to her house, which was about 6 miles from his house. So after the second call, Reuben said that Misty got angry at him and then hung up. So Reuben claimed that sometime after those calls, this is weird, he, quote unquote, blacked out. Once again, just to give a commentary here. Talia is, I will give her this. She's watching me intently tell this story. She just laid her mic down on her lap. And the world be damned.
Now listen. No, wait. Repeat that.
He blacked out.
But from drinking,
No, he just said blacked out. He said he had a history of unexplained blackouts.
Oh, shut the hell up.
Since childhood, according to him. He told the detectives he honestly couldn't remember anything from later that night.
Well, isn't that convenient?
It's as if he went blank after 9 p.m. and woke up the next morning not knowing what he might have done.
That's really scary.
I know. It just popped into my head like that's bananas.
B-A-N-A-S. I just said bananas. I just spelled bananas.
Well, it is bananas.
That's wild.
Yeah, I know. Even more unsettling, if you can believe it. Reuben somehow ended up at his grandmother's farm the next morning. That farm is roughly 8 miles from where Misty's jeans were found along Highway 410. Reuben said he had no idea how he got there.
Oh, my God.
He had no gas money, remember? He had none.
But he drove himself.
Nonezo. And nobody was home at the farm when he arrived, apparently. Now, how he knows this part, I don't know. But investigators asked the obvious. Do you think it's possible that you might have picked up Misty during this blackout? And, I don't know, maybe harmed her without remembering? Reuben's answer was the following. I don't know. I mean, can you believe this?
I can't. He's not doing a damn thing to help himself.
Well, no, that's correct. He insisted that if it happened, that it was not intentional.
He is just laying the groundwork for, yes, I did something to her.
And that he could not hurt her, and he couldn't touch a dead body if something bad did occur. So very bizarre.
He does not sound like a reputable individual, and what he's saying isn't even really helping himself.
No. He agreed to take a polygraph, but results were inconclusive. The person giving the polygraph test, though, did think he was not being entirely truthful. And I guess there was this trick that he was trying to employ, which actually you're trying to as well right now, where he was putting himself to sleep. Because I guess if you are in a state of semi-consciousness with your heart rate down and everything, it makes the test sound more truthful. So he was literally trying to fall asleep while being questioned.
And no one decided to stop the test.
I don't think so. They're pushing through just like I'm pushing through.
Right.
With you.
My eyes feel like there is lead in them.
Over the past 20 minutes, I've seen you degenerate.
I feel it.
From a semi-lucid person to big time on the struggle bus.
I'm upright. I want to lay down. I just want to rest my head.
You are
so
upright.
Bad. And like pull this blanket up farther, and I think the minute that I do it, it's over. It's not going to be good.
Yeah. You're being a very good sport.
Thank you. It's a very interesting case.
You said. So later on, Reuben blurted out something another extremely suspicious thing to a coworker at a restaurant where he worked. During a conversation about Misty's case, Reuben claimed to know exactly where Misty's body was, saying that it was on his grandmother's farm. So this got back to police, of course, and when they hauled Reuben in to explain, he backpedaled a little bit. And he said he only made those comments to get his boss off his back.
How? How would those comments of all comments help in that way?
Basically, in an attention-seeking lie.
Like, look what I'm going through kind of thing?
Or look what I can do?
Yeah.
I don't know. So, given all this, he's like the closest thing to the prime suspect in Misty's disappearance. In fact, as recently as 2007, as in 2017, police social media post basically called him out as the prime suspect who was just never charged. Over the years, Rubin had run-ins with the law. He had a rape accusation by another teen girl in 1996, but that was dropped. A theft arrest. A theft arrest in 2000, and then domestic issues later, which keeps him on the radar.
I was going to say, he is definitely having some struggles that are not going away.
Yes.
All cut from the same cloth.
Right. But despite all this odd behavior and statements, there is no physical evidence ever tying him to the crime. So there is another person that was a suspect. Now, you remember her original friend who she went to the carnival with? Trina. Trina, she had a quote-unquote secret boyfriend.
Oh, my. At 14.
At 14.
What was he, 25?
Close. His name was Michael, and he was 23.
Oh, my God. What are the... Oh, my God.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So, for a long time, Misty's friend Trina had not been fully truthful about her own movements that night. Initially, Trina said she started walking home, and that was that.
Right.
But months later, under fresh questioning by one of the detectives, Trina confessed that she did not actually walk the whole way home. The truth was that she had a much older boyfriend, Michael, who picked her up near the fairgrounds shortly after she and Misty parted. So Trina was 14. Michael was 23. Their relationship was something that had been hidden from her parents and her friends. And Trina said that before she left, she offered Misty a ride with them. But Misty declined because she didn't trust Michael. So Trina left with Michael, and according to her, she told Michael that Misty would catch the bus and be fine. Michael dropped Trina off at her house and then went on his way. But once police learned about Michael, they had to consider him as a suspect because the question was, could he have returned after dropping Trina off and found Misty still stranded?
Absolutely.
Right. Because this guy had a troubling past. As a teenager, at 16, he was accused of abducting and sexually assaulting an 11-year-old at knife point. So he was never convicted because charges were not filed, but the allegations showed a propensity for violence. So if anyone at the fairgrounds that night had some bad intentions, he certainly fit the bill. FBI analysts looked for forensic links between Michael's vehicle and the recovered evidence, but they found nothing, no fibers, no DNA, nothing to tie him to Misty. He also took a polygraph test and he passed, indicating that he was likely telling the truth about not seeing Misty after that night. So ultimately, law enforcement ruled Michael out as the one that took Misty. Of course, was it just a stranger? Of course, well, yeah, I guess. I mean, that's certainly plausible. Was it that serial killer, the Green River serial killer, who was doing stuff? Potentially. Once again, like, who knows? Some people even suspected Corey Bober himself. Because was he this crusader, or why did he know all this stuff? Shaw me. Although he was trying to shaw people all the time, actually. They didn't want to listen to him.
I don't have a bad feeling about him. I mean, I don't know who the hell is responsible, but I didn't necessarily get a bad idea.
And I mean, detectives never actually named him as a serious suspect whatsoever. So I'm just trying to look up anything like later. So one thing positive came in 2009. In 2009, they reopened and re-examined Misty's case with fresh eyes, and there was like a whole brand new team of detectives now obviously on the case, and what they found was like that this case was a mess. You know, like decades old documents, they were in disarray.
Not thorough.
Right. Some things were missing, misfiled. So they basically spent 2 years reorganizing and reviewing every single detail. They re-interviewed the witnesses again and the suspects. They even, they talked to Rubin, they talked to Michael, they talked to Trina, and they sent Misty's genes for updated DNA testing because if you remember back in 1993, the DNA profiling was
limited.
Yes. I'm limited, which I don't think you know that song, but it's from Wicked. So technology had advanced, though, by 2009, and the lab actually managed to detect male DNA on Misty's genes that did not belong to any of her known friends or family. So, but it was not Ruben's and it was not Michael's also.
Stranger danger.
Right. I mean, the daytime Talia would have asked that right away. The nighttime Talia doesn't give a shit.
I don't have it in me.
I know you don't.
I
Which
don't.
This is kind of nice, to be honest. Like if I could find a happy medium to just being you're tranquilized just enough, but you're still
tranquilized.
you're still with it just enough to sort of answer me when I
sharp enough, but I'm not intrusive.
You're not bullying your way into my story. We are actually really close to the end now.
Wow.
So at the end of the day, literally at the end of this day, this is still a cold case, right? It's never been solved. But basically, the detectives made a promise to, I guess, Misty's mother that it will remain open and not just fade into obscurity unsolved.
That poor woman, she has never been the same again.
Well, right.
Will never be the same again. Blames herself, I'm sure.
I can imagine. I guess in 2017, it was the 25th anniversary of her disappearance. So the police department used their official Facebook and Twitter accounts to narrate Misty's story in first person as if Misty herself were telling it.
That's a nice touch.
And it basically is saying, like, to everybody, hey, like, I'm Misty, I'm missing, I need your help, like that kind of thing.
They did, like, the agent hat.
The agent hat?
They did the age enhancement on that, I assume.
Yes, they did the age progression image showing Misty in her mid-40s.
Oh, my God.
So, obviously, that's a very haunting picture because we never know Misty got to that age.
Exactly.
So Misty's mom, Diana, continues to fight for answers year after year. She's given countless interviews. She's always sharing Misty's story with anyone who will listen. And over time, Diana became vocal about the mistakes in the investigation, advocating for better training on missing children cases, especially the police immediately treating endangered teens as missing people rather than runaways. So, to wrap this up, because you can barely handle what's happening here, if anybody listening has any information on the disappearance of Misty, no matter how small, please contact the Puyallup Puyallup. Puyallup, I think. Police department, because her family and this community have waited over 3 decades for answers, and even the smallest clue could help make a difference.
It's so heartbreaking for this family, and I just feel so bad for Diana. The story breaks my heart, the impact that it's had on her, on Diana, and the rest of her family. I just hope whatever happened to Misty, she was not in any pain, and if she was, it wasn't prolonged. But
right.
I can't fathom she's still alive.
No, I would think not.
No.
So yeah, I don't know, but that's the disappearance of Misty, and if she is no longer with us, which I believe is probably the case, then may she be resting in peace.
Absolutely.
And thank you for staying with us.
You're welcome.
This
I'm about to drop
time.
fast.
You're drugged.
My eyes are so
Yeah,
heavy.
I can see them. So we've never ever recorded this late.
Never.
We normally record about 12 hours before this.
And I see why that is.
So all right, it's been something.
It has. It has been nice. Good
job.
So, all right. Well, we will catch everybody in the next episode. Thank you for staying with us. Thank you for staying with us. And as always,
stay safe.
And stay chill.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. You've just listened to Chillworthy. Thank you for joining us on this latest episode. While we strive to keep our discussions engaging and lighthearted, we also wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the real lives and events that are at the heart of these stories.
We try to approach each topic with a sense of curiosity and respect, fully aware of the impact these events have had on the individuals and their loved ones. Our goal is to honor their memories by keeping their stories alive and shedding light on the mysteries that surround them.
If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe, rate, and leave a review, and don't forget to join us on the next episode of Chillworthy.